Hi, my name is Lucas de Man and I'm a Belgian artist working in Amsterdam. 2015 was a troubled year for Europe and especially for the Europeans living in it. We had a refugee crisis, financial crisis, social crisis, all kinds of crises, you name it, we've got it. So I was wondering, what can we do? And by we, I mean the people. And by the people, I mean actually my generation. Because we are supposed to be the next leaders of Europe. You know, do we have a vision? And what is that vision? Or is it everybody for themselves? And where are the creators? And by creators, I mean people who have a vision for this world and who act upon that vision. I was wondering, is there a generation of young creators in Europe that share a vision? So I collected my team. We have Kimberly, who is a dramaturg. We have Thomas, who is a journalist. We have our cameraman, Pepijn. And we have our director, Ruud. And with this amazing team, I went in 30 days to 8 countries, 17 cities. And now I'm back, and I'm gonna tell you, it was one hell of a trip. We met more than 25 amazing creators.
It's always more easy to imagine the end of the world than a different world.
There's something boiling in Europe that I do not even dare to name it.
Making the world better, leave that to God.
We can win the battle, yeah, there is hope.
I found a generation in Europe working hard today, which is neither cynical nor idealistic. My generation is caught up in a dilemma between, on one hand, it does not make a difference what you do, on the other hand, it does make a difference what you do. This is our dilemma. On one hand, we learn from history, you know, it will always repeat itself, inequality will always be, you know, this. On the other hand, it's up to us, we have to do something. How do you deal with this? The key for this I found in Belgium. The Belgian artist Simon Allemeers, he said this.
It's not about making it a better world, but the first step is just to make it into a sort of world, into a sort of society. It's not about improving society, it's just about creating society.
It sounds very simple what he says, but for me it was a main insight on this journey. First, I am part of a generation. Secondly, it's not about making a better society, it's about making a society. So it's not about striving for always more, afraid to fail, burnout, stress. No, it's about creating society step by step. Whether it's better or not, you don't know. And that creating a society, always, is what's happening everywhere with my generation. How? Well, on many different ways. For example, storytelling. Simon, who you just met, he believes in the importance of a storyteller in these days.
In 2009, a friend of mine, which is very important, it was a friend of mine, it was no organization, it was no theater. A friend of mine visited me at my home, and he was at that moment working as a social worker in 3 large social apartment buildings here in Ghent that are just outside the city center of Ghent. And he told me that these buildings would be torn down, and that the people who were still living there, that they were afraid to live in, and it was the word that he used, in a sarcophagus, in an empty building. And he asked me to do something. But knowing that there was no money, no organization, no plan. And I really didn't know what to do. And then I simply thought, yeah, I have these other projects that I do. I need a workspace. Why shouldn't I just organize my atelier, my workspace, in one of the empty apartments?
Het enige dat ik kon doen, is zelf een plaats innemen in het geheel. En een verhaal vertellen.
Dat is de camera waar het over gaat. Zie je het zitten? Officially, you have 3 buildings with economically passive people, or they are retired, or they are in healthcare, or they are have psychological problems, and then that's why they don't work and so on. So my workspace started to function as a social place. At one time, you're just a place where 40 people come to eat. And a lot of them come to eat because they have no other food to eat, just because of the poverty is really, we're not used to it in Belgium to see this sort of poverty. And on the other end, when someone dies, suddenly you are the coffee table after the funeral, because the family has no means to pay for another space. Officially, the atelier existed for 26 months. So I think after 4 years, we had the performance. I was talking with someone who lives in Rabat, with whom we worked a lot. And after the performance, he said, thank you for the performance. And I said, yeah, but thanks to you as well, because I couldn't have done this without you. Are the expert about living there, so I needed you. They helped me. It was not the other way around. And then he said, yeah, we can say whatever we want and we can tell everything we know, but still we need someone to make the montage of it. So yeah, it is my ability to do this. It's my ability. I borrow the words from someone else, but it's my ability to voice someone who is voiceless.
De torens van het Rabat gaan verdwijnen. Onze torens gaan afgebroken worden. Deze atelier heeft 2 jaar bestaan.
I'm really pleased with it, with the small moments that it works, and that you discover that someone, his head is just like a few centimeters higher because there's a story behind him now. We live in a society where the narratives of identity, for instance, have become so intricate and so difficult to explain. And on the other hand, our media, and I mean media, I mean not only newspapers, but how we look and how we communicate with the world, have become so narrow and so quick. We really need time and good storytelling to get it, to understand what is happening just.
Storytelling creates identity. And identity is a fluid concept. We know that. My generation realizes that. But at the same time, we need our identity. So we recreate it every day again through all kinds of media. For example, Nikos in Greece, he has a project specifically about identity.
Over the last few years, thousands of Greeks have decided to move abroad. My name is Nicholas and I'm one of them.
Hi, Nicholas. Hi.
At least 300,000 Greek people have left the country over the last 5-6 years. A large number of them are people who are educated, well-educated, and multilingual. So they're a totally different kind of migration wave than what we knew before. I set up, together with some friends, we set up a platform which is like a digital storytelling platform. And it's focusing on the personal stories mainly of Greeks living abroad during the time of crisis, of the new generation of Greeks, and that's why we call it New Diaspora.
It's about time we tell our own part of the story.
Apart from telling the story, it's a way to form a community. It's a way to, through content, which is also user-generated content, people become aware of New Diaspora and they join it as a community. And we're planning to make offline events and other ways of getting all these people to network with each other, to support each other. Some of our stories are republished in large online media, and we're also trying to influence, to spread the word, to spread the seeds, basically, because Another reason of why New Diaspora exists is that we're desperately looking for a collective identity. We will find a way to stand up on our feet again, to set up this economy from scratch, because it's a devastated economy, and to also reveal this collective identity and find who we are, and make our children and grandchildren proud of what we have achieved through these difficult times. We don't really have an option. I mean, the other option is too gloomy to talk about. The other option is all you need to do is look at history.
Nicolas uses an online platform for his project about identity. Technology for identity. If there's one word which defines my generation, it's technology. But Engin from Istanbul says,
You cannot fetishize the technology. It's just a tool. It's not the purpose. So the purpose is always changing offline.
Engin is the co-founder of the Institute for Creative Minds in Istanbul. And his company does an interesting combination of both commercial work and social projects. Here is how he uses technology.
Hey!
Hi,
Hi!
Lucas.
Hi, Lucas. Engin. For is our kind of activist side. It's a project to understand Turkey. It's a crowdsourced network for communication. We've got like hundreds of people across country who contributes to this news network.
Wait. What is 140 journalists? It's only Twitter, right?
No. It's now everywhere. Like web plus Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, Vine, Periscope, Snapchat, Turkish leading social media, Ekşi Sözlük, Bobiler, all these crowdsourced humor sites. So we are now leaking into the platforms that no conventional news outlets would think as a medium to pass on their messages. Now, you cannot protest on the street that easily. Police is challenging you, spraying pepper gas, using water cannons to disperse. But on the internet, you're freer. Freer. Not the freest, but you're freer. So we have to enable this digital public space for serious discussions too. That was the initial idea. But if you only do it on digital platform, then you lose touch with the actual ground. So we said, let's combine the physical public space and digital public space. I'll give you one example from a project that we did 3 years ago, 2012. The first nuclear plant in Turkey is being built by these days. Who wants a nuclear plant right next to the house in that age in Turkey? Turks are clumsy. We were not super against nuclear plant because we didn't know anything about it, what's the security measures. But we said, let's discuss it with professionals and with everyday people. There is this famous tower in Istanbul called the Galata Tower. It's a very significant monument in the city. Everybody likes it. And we said, this tower kind of looks like the Twitter timeline. It's vertical. Overnight, we came with projectors. We mapped the tower. We kind of made a kind of PR before it with 140 journals. And we said, this is our hashtag. Can you please participate to the discussion? We don't know about nuclear energy, whether it's still good, it's still old, or it's new. Security measures maybe help, I don't know. We have to discuss it, So we released all these hashtags, the celebrities, parliamentarians, even the constructor of the nuclear plant, the company who won the bidding, a Russian company, participated to the discussion with the PR team. And we made a kind of survey, public survey. You know what? We reached 8 million people without spending one dime.
I wish you all the best with all your projects, and hopefully we meet again in Europe or here.
Anywhere on the world.
Connecting people, whether it's online or offline, has always and will always be essential.
You can have everything you want, but you need a sense of belonging, otherwise people, they just die.
I found many creators who are experimenting with ways to re-establish meaningful connections between people. For example, the Social Muscle Club in Berlin, they are creating communities by practicing giving and receiving.
Social Muscle Club is a group of people who makes events and practices and performances that train our social muscles.
What are our social muscles? You also do like this.
Yes,
Are they here?
I do that a lot. No, I don't know. I always do this, but of course they're everywhere. Social muscles are kind of like social skills, interpersonal skills. So like interest, communication, giving and receiving, and all those kind of soft skills. The first public social muscle club. You can call it a game or you can call it an exercise where we would write down on a piece of paper something you would like to give and something you'd like to receive, put it in a bowl and draw it out, but we also always had to have performances. Amazing when somebody shares their wish could just be like, I want somebody to help me with my website, but that's equally as important as what I really need is for someone to help me care for my grandfather or whatever. I mean, everybody's wishes are, or I have a really great talent at playing the piano. That's just as important as, I don't know, I can bake a cake. It feels like a movement in a way. I mean, it really does, because actually simply because of these connections between the cities that are slowly happening. Because we did this club in Basel, well, they're going to do 4, and now there's a whole Basel team who we're working with. And now we want to have some of these artists in Basel come to Berlin, or we're going to go to Nancy, France. And we thought, why don't we just ask the Berlin people? No, let's ask someone from Basel, and vice versa. And then you start to have these little connections. Bye.
Creating communities is very important, and it's happening all over Europe. But there's one big danger. What if your community only exists out of people that think like you?
Somebody says, I do not like it, it's a boring conversation. Somebody else says, well, change it. It's up to you.
The essence of society is that you stay and engage with people that don't think like you. Lotte van den Berg, she goes back to the essence of society, conversation. And she creates spaces where people can really meet each other.
So if we want to think, how do we connect? How do we take responsibility? How do we stop being only consumers? How do we engage ourselves really? No? Then you have to also really do it. In a way, you could say I offer an empty stage for people to step on and to take action. I saw it happening around me within the fields of the arts, but of course also in other fields, in society, in politics, everywhere. This word came up, like participation, we have to participate. But what does it mean? So we thought it would be good to investigate on this. And therefore we did a public brainstorm. A lot of people said, but actually, we don't have to build anything. No, maybe we don't have to create anything. But this, what we do now, no? The talk itself is of value. And this is what made us more and more interested in what is actually a conversation, in what ways could we offer that or bring that or give this opportunity. So we started to be interested in the form of conversations, and we started to explore all different kinds of conversations and to explore techniques from all over the world, from Inuit, from Maori, from quantum physics scientists, theory also from Chantal Mouffe. And more different techniques also pointed out to me that in a way a conversation is a space, if it's good, where conflict can exist. People don't like to look for conflicts. And they say, no, we do not really have a conflict. But of course, we have lots of conflicts. No? How do we deal with the refugees? How do we deal with this, with digital revolution? How do we deal with changing democracies? So there is lots of things happening, but we all, in a way, learn not to look at it. So what happens if we do? If you really have a talk with somebody, it's actually super scary.
Why?
Because there is the potential of change. So you engage in the other engages in you. You share your position, everything you are, and there is the possibility that this meeting changes you. If we can share our disagreements and look at them together, if we can stay with them, then that's the common ground we actually have.
So far, I shared with you 5 insights I found on my journey on how my generation is forming society today. Storytelling, identity, community, technology, and stay. We are now halfway our journey, and there's more to come. When I met Professor De Kouter in Belgium, he pointed out to me that there's a huge struggle that we are fighting today, the struggle against the enclosure of the commons. And the professor said that it all started 500 years ago with Thomas More's Utopia.
Lucas. Hi.
Hello.
What are you reading?
So people focus on utopia, on the long and very tedious, we have to admit. It's very boring. It's one of the most boring books I have ever read, in fact, because he describes at length the life in utopia. But they forget that Morus wrote against his time. And this is the eternal beauty of this book. And in fact, in the one page where he says sheep are such nice animals, but now they're eating people and buildings and...
But wait. Sheep eating people? People don't understand. Wait, let me explain. What was happening in those days is that you had the noblemen who owned all the land and the common people who had nothing. They lent the land from the noblemen, you know? So they're living on that land. Suddenly the noblemen thought, you know how we can make more money? If we chase off all the common people, burn down their houses, put some grass more, have more sheep, so we have more to sell, we are richer. Common people thrown out. And around all that land, they put a big fence, and they claimed, now it's ours. So they were claiming the land, putting a fence around what belongs to everyone. And that is enclosing of the commons. Thomas More was the first who saw this. But these days, it's still happening more than ever, everywhere you go.
Because what happens today is a massive subsidizing of the rich and a massive punishment of the poor. And you can prove it. I could give you examples and examples and examples till you're bored and your whole documentary is spoiled. But it is true. It's rock bottom. The statistics prove it. The oil companies are enclosing the commons in a way which is 20,000 times more horrendous than in Moore's times. They do fracking. They do tar sand oils. They do deep sea oil. And I could go on. It's the same for knowledge. It's the same for the pharma industries. They enclose the commons in a way that we should not tolerate anymore.
Everywhere I went on my journey, I saw this enclosing of the commons happening. And it's not only on the level of nature or water or even air. It's also on the level of information, big data, or social housing, or healthcare, or education, or nuclear energy, or public space. You name it. Luckily, I met a lot of people who are fighting against this enclosing of the commons. For example, Valerio. He and his crew in Rome squatted a theater for more than 3 years, and they introduced the system of the commons to run it. Nice to meet you too. Wow. This was it.
Yeah, that is the door of the theater, but we start in 14 June of 2011, and we knock and we enter in 50 inside.
It's 50 people.
50 people.
And who were those 50 people? Who were they?
Was a group of workers of theater. And the major decided to privatize. The plan was about occupy just symbolically for 3 days the theater.
3 days?
Yes, 3 days.
And how long did you stay?
3 years.
3 years.
After 3 days, we realized that was a lot of wish of people, a lot of artists that come to support this idea about not cut money for culture, not privatize this theater. The model of the occupation was based on the commons. That means a group of people, a community of people, manage a theater in this case, but could happen even for a park, for I don't know, for a land, for a lot of things.
Valerio explained me the key ideas on which they based their model of the commons. First, circular formation. That means that everybody has a position, but you can only keep that position for a few years. Then you change it. If you're an artistic director, after a few years you become a technician or an actor, and you changed. Audience can always come in and watch every step of the process. Secondly, funding. They have all kinds of funding, not just subsidies or private funding, but crowdsourcing, subsidies, private, all together. 3, assembly. They have every week a meeting to make decisions on how to run the theater. Everybody can come, but they don't make the decisions based on voting, they make the decisions based on consensus. 4, time bank system. So you can pay for your ticket with money, or you pay for your ticket with time. So instead of money, you give a few hours working at the bar or cleaning up afterwards. Unfortunately, they didn't have the chance to develop their ideas further.
Politics don't want a dialogue with us because this model was too dangerous, was too strange, too impossible. I don't know. I can't say a lot of things, but didn't accept, didn't talk with us about this model.
And how do you feel about that?
Angry, very, yes, with a lot of sadness, with a lot of. In this moment, we lose this battle.
Let's talk politics. Or, no, let's talk about democracy. Officially in Europe, we live in representative democracies. Now we elect people and they should represent us. But there is a big problem.
What exactly is democracy? Like, for example, is democracy the right to vote? Is democracy freedom of speech?
There is no political party that represents us as a whole or individually.
We even have the need to go over the category left and right.
Everywhere I went, I saw the same thing. People feel that they are not heard or not seen. They vote, but they don't have influence. And that should change. Actually, it is changing. Citizens are taking over everywhere in Europe. They're introducing a new kind of democracy, representative democracy with direct democracy. A good example of this is happening in Spain. And it started in 2011 with the M15 demonstrations. Here's Raúl.
We had this kind of emergent stuff which was mainly formed by the younger people, very enraged, very angry, very indignant by the broken promises. And this was the very people that started to self-organize through the networks. And they created something which was called Democracia Real Ya, real democracy now, saying May 15, next May 15, we are taking to the streets everybody on his or her own town, city, village, etc. And that's how it worked. Myself and my comrades as activists, we were like saying, who are these people? Nobody knew them. It was a total novelty. That very day we saw that it was something very powerful because we had 60 different demos, self-organized demos in all Spain, not only Madrid, like concentrated by it. You know, in a small village, they had their own demo.
And who started this then?
40 people in Puerta del Sol decided to camp there. We are staying, this is not enough, etc. So they were clever enough to have their laptop and do streaming of everything. So those thousands of people that went back to their homes, they still were checking these crazy people, what are they gonna do? So they could see that the cops came and evicted them from the square, which enacted a real indignant reaction, a chain reaction. So the following day there were more, they were again evicted. So in 4 days we had 30,000 people in Puerta del Sol, and then a wave of occupations, of campings, of plazas ocupadas in the whole Spain, and that was the beginning in a week, because it was the week between May 15 and the municipal elections, trying to influence on that elections in terms of a critique of the political system. But it turned into something more. It turned into a new kind of civic insurrection, claiming reappropriation of politics, in the sense of politics in order to get out of this mess of corruption, very key issue in Spain, of politicians sold out to business, etc., doing nothing about the fate of a whole generation of people, of a whole country.
I'm standing here in the middle of Madrid, and behind me there's a huge street party going on because today a new mayor, Manuela, has been chosen. She's 71, she's a judge, and the most important thing, she does not belong to any political party. She's chosen by the people. She had no money to do a campaign, so the people, by crowdfunding, by helping, paid to get her in power. And the hope now is that the social movements, the people themselves, can become part of the power in the city. Not just politicians, civilians, but working together.
On the program of Ahora Madrid, it is planned to have like juntas de buen gobierno, which would be like citizens' committees on the neighborhood basis, who periodically would have, you know, accountability meetings with the city council.
But can they also decide upon something? Because
they can propose, they can sort of veto, they can propose like, this is very, I don't know, polemic, we should have a referendum. It's not about an utopia of everybody doing politics all the time. It's just about, you know, that democracy is a commons. I don't know if Spain was doomed to have a May 15 or something, but anyway, it's been a grace. You know, it's been like a sort of a secular miracle, because otherwise we would be in a situation even worse than Greece, no?
In Poland, I met Slavomir. He is the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Political Critique, which is a central European platform for citizen journalism. He is trying to increase democracy not by starting a political party, but by starting a social movement.
Ja zakładałem krytykę w czasach, kiedy słyszałem, że inteligencja jest passé, że teraz jest czas dla klasy średniej, że wszystkie altruistyczne etyki są niepotrzebne, anachroniczne, że teraz to jest czas egoizmów. look what Polish government, did to us. They stole all our, correct books. What we create is we create togetherness. We create this social glue in the world which is so individualistic, so atomized, that people really don't want to live together anymore. But to do it, you really have to involve people. And don't count that you can do it by Facebook or you can do it on a mass scale immediately. No. Today, it's very hard to go from social protest to social movement. This is why Indignados or Occupy Wall Street, they never turn to social movement. No argument will organize people. No emotion. Emotion can organize social protest, but not social movement. The last thing, the last order, the last mean is common experience. Doing something together, all right? We were always opponents of all the governments, so no one really loves us. Look, before politics was about going to Agora, going, to the public, then showing your idea, narration, program, vision, your aim, or agenda of aims, and then convincing people. The more you convince, the more support you're gonna get. Now, look how it looks now. You go to Agora only to check what the people already think by giving them surveys or something, yeah? Then you write your narration, all right? By the fuckers from PR. I cannot understand why these PR sections are not in the prison but at the universities. Because it's about cheating people, isn't it? You're gonna tell me that this party politics makes any sense?
No vision.
Ale zaraz.
For these last 8 years, they only approved 2 real social reforms, like the significant. The rest is administration, more or less. Those 2 changes were about pensions. In these 2 changes, and in other smaller, the opponent of the government was not the opposition, was mostly NGOs. We organized a coalition of NGOs. We published first a guide on it. Then we published many books. We organized thousands of conferences. We taught many MPs. We, taught many journalists. We organized campaigns for 2 years. And then we changed it, okay? And all the 5 biggest things were changed in the axis between certain ministries and NGOs. Not on the axis between coalition and opposition, okay?
I understand.
And it's more and more popular like this. So don't tell me that I can't do anything by Critica. I can do probably more than most of the parties. We are also larger than most of the parties here.
It's not only citizens and NGOs that can affect politics. So can art. Jonas Staal showed me that art can make politics more political than is possible in real life.
I'm the founder of an artistic and political organization called the New World Summit that develops in the spaces of theater and art what we call alternative parliaments, new political spaces for organizations, stateless, blacklisted organizations that today find themselves excluded from democracy, specifically in the context of the so-called war on terror. So groups that are considered to be a threat to the so-called stability of the state and as such are placed outside of the framework of day-to-day politics. So we, as the New World Summit, explore at what level the space of art and the space of theater can function as an alternative space of political representation there where politics fails. Well, I think in essence, all art is propaganda, meaning that art has always served dominant forces, whether that is church or state, and tries to engage or tries to create a space of possible criticality, but always within the structures that she's embedded in. in the sense that art is always a product of its time, but artists are also a product of their time. So for example, today we are in the heart of empire, of capitalist democracy, and here the task of art is to show our capacity to be as free as liberal democracy, as capitalist democracy has promised us to be. So it's not so much what the artist makes, no one cares about what artist makes. It's about the idea that there are artists and the artists are free. I'm an artist who decided to work together directly with social movements and political parties to try to change the conditions of my own practice, to try to change the question who it is exactly that I'm serving. What we see in the context of Europe when it comes to the rise of different new political parties, and I mentioned already Podemos, Syriza, but also social movements from M15, Los Indignados in Spain, to the Occupy movement, to Gezi Park in Turkey, what we see are the articulation of a new common political project, a movement that fights for mass democratization. And my question is, what can be the role of art to contribute to that process, to that imaginary? I think one aspect is about, when it comes to the role of artists, is how do we imagine, how do we visualize a new politics? In our case, we do it by developing new political structures, alternative parliaments, that try to redefine what is the practice of democracy. So what you see is an architectural construction, circular construction, and in that construction are flags that all belong to organizations that today are considered terrorist groups. So they are placed on international designated lists of terrorist organizations, which means that they're considered to be a threat to the stability of the state, which results in freezing of their bank account, retrieval of their passport, so they cannot travel, and it means they're effectively isolated, placed outside of the confines of so-called democracy.
So if they cannot travel, they're not part of the summit itself as well.
Well, that's why we try to make an intervention. The space of art, of course, has always been a political and juridical exceptional space. Yeah. So within art, on a legal level also, it is possible to organize forms of politics that might not be possible to organize anywhere else. I mean, what is the artwork here? That's, I think, is the real question. Like, is the artwork that you create this architectural construction, or is the artwork that you bring in voices that would otherwise not be heard, or is the artwork something else? And I think the artwork is something else. It lies in the people that are organized in this space and the social relationships that are being created through that space. Because that, I think, is what an emancipatory art essentially does. It's not about making an object and placing it in the world. It's about how making a structure in the world can change our social relationships in that world. And this is the artwork.
Here we are now, at the end of our journey, part of a generation that is working so hard, not on creating a better society, but on creating a society in all kinds of ways. Storytelling, identity, technology, community, stay, commons, new democracy, social movement, role of art. All these different people that I met, there were so many of them. Every day, step by step, piece by piece, we are making our society. Some of us with huge projects, some of us with smaller ones. But everybody is contributing their own to society. And now, this would be the point in the documentary where I would say, thank you so much for watching. Now go on and make your own piece of society. But before you do that, I wanted to show you, I couldn't leave it, I wanted to show you a project that touched me so much on my journey, in which all of these elements come together. And that is the project Metropolis by Giorgio in Rome. Metropolis. It says itself, look. Lucas. Hi.
E adesso curo questo progetto un po' strano che si chiama Museo dell'Altro e dell'Altrove di Metropolis, che è il primo museo abitato del pianeta Terra. Le persone che vivono a Metropolis sono circa 200 abitanti, sono migranti e precari, diciamo, cioè gente che viene nel nostro paese cercando così una vita diversa e quindi e anche italiani, perché ci sono tanti italiani che vivono qui che stanno lo stesso diciamo, nella condizione di non poter pagare un affitto. E quindi le 200 persone che sono arrivate ad occupare questo relitto urbano, che era una fabbrica di salami dismessa una ventina d'anni fa per essere ricostruita qualche chilometro più a sud per una legge italiana che premiava l'industrializzazione del mezzogiorno, diciamo, lo hanno fatto per darsi un tetto. Il museo è aperto al pubblico tutti i sabati, quindi noi il sabato permettiamo, diciamo, a chiunque lo desidera di entrare. Pinacoteca domestica diffusa, cioè abbiamo messo le opere dentro gli appartamenti per forzare le persone a bussare e a dire buongiorno, buonasera, vorrei vedere quel quadro e alla fine magari anche prendersi un caffè, no? Perché lo scopo non è solo vedere l'arte, è anche capire cos'è un'occupazione abitativa, incontrare persone che ti sembrano diverse e pericolose, invece forse dopo che ci hai parlato sono persone con cui puoi stringere anche una relazione. Questo progetto si alimenta grazie al dono di ciascun individuo, è la somma degli sforzi di ciascun individuo, anche economici, perché ogni artista si paga i propri materiali e paga le cose che gli servono per fare, no? Per regalare questo suo contributo a Metropolis. Questa somma permette di realizzare 400 opere d'arte in 3 anni, questo è quello che siamo riusciti a fare. Quindi io dico che è sostenibile, si possono fare grandi cose se si fanno tutti insieme.
This is a piece by Angelo Pistoletto, and he's one of the most famous artists they have here. This piece alone is worth 2 million euros.
Per quanto riguarda proprio il futuro di questo luogo, abbiamo 2 grandi possibilità, oltre la terza che evocavo prima, che semplicemente ci stanchiamo tutti, abitanti in primis, di questo gioco e decidiamo di smettere. Ma diciamo le grandi alternative sono che questo posto venga sgomberato perché diciamo, la minaccia dello sgombero è continua e la legge al momento dice che si può sgomberare perché è uno spazio occupato illegalmente, quindi che tutto finisca. Ovviamente la grande presenza dell'arte qui farà fare una brutta figura a chi farà questo, siano diciamo i privati, i proprietari, sia no? Le forze, lo Stato, chi si prenderà carico di abbattere con le ruspe 400 opere d'arte. No, ed è la trappola che noi gli abbiamo teso. Perché in questo mondo se tu cacci 200 persone, di cui 60 minori, e li metti in mezzo alla strada, il giornale titola un trafiletto "Bonificata l'area della ex Fiorucci", come se ci fossero le zanzare, e tutti dicono beh era ora, no? Se tu butti giù 400 opere d'arte tutti insorgono allo scandalo dicendo che è un atto di chiara barbarie, no?
Grazie. You can have everything you want, but you need a sense of belonging, otherwise people, they just die.
Pessimism in theory, optimism in practice, and which is a very short and I hope powerful reply to all your questions.
Either we work together or we perish.
It's not about improving society, it's just about creating society. There is no society if you do nothing.
And we can be whatever we want to be, but we have to be that collectively. We have to want it collectively.
Because, in fact, we don't have answers. Nobody has answers.
Like, this game has to continue with our rules.
Somebody says, I do not like it, it's a boring conversation. Somebody else says, well, change it. It's up to you.